really going to talk too much about Siftr. Siftr is the tool I'm using to avoid grading 60 extra assignments per semester. And it's not that I'm afraid of work at all. I want to be able to achieve whatever learning objectives that I have for the students in the most efficient and effective way possible. And this is taking the place of 60 extra papers that I would have to grade. And I think doing a better job at it. So let me show you what I am up to. I am teaching Counseling Psychology 125. It's just that little one-credit course for freshmen who get to come to the university and help transition them from high school and get them ready to think like academics, to experience this wonderful place that they're at. And so the goals, one of their assignments, the traditional assignment, is called the Wisconsin Passport Assignment, where they're supposed to go out and engage with activities and get beyond their comfort zone and really push themselves to become part of the Madison community and become part of the academic community a little bit more. It's something that I wish, because I went to school here 20 years ago as an undergraduate, that I would have taken a little bit more of an opportunity to do. So part of that is why I'm teaching this course, is to help the freshmen take advantage of all the cool things that we do here at this university. So what traditionally the assignment was is that students wrote 3 reflection papers throughout the semester, each describing an activity. Well, that's great. They go out, they experience it, they reflect on it. But what doesn't happen is that they're not sharing these experiences with anybody but me, and who cares? I'm 38. I don't need to go out and do whatever they're doing. I have my own stuff to do. So that is not helpful to anybody else in their class. The other piece is that I take writing very, very seriously. And when I sit down and work with these new freshmen who just came out of high school and have been taught to write a 5-paragraph essay really, really well, they're really good at 5-paragraph essays, I want to help them break through that. And I can't do that with that amount of writing. The 2 response papers, other response papers that we do during the semester, I sit down and do a writing conference for each student. So that's where I'm offsetting the workload for these papers onto really working on some writing that makes sense to work on. So here's what my alternative assignments tends to be. Instead of doing these papers, they have a Twitter challenge each week and a Siftr challenge each week. And I know we're not talking about Siftr, but since they go together, I thought, I'm sorry, Twitter, since we're not talking about Twitter. Yes, I still want to share it because it goes together. They're complementary. So each week they have a new Twitter theme. They go out and they're asked to do specific things. And this is the Twitter piece of it, is to go out and push themselves, to extend themselves, to meet new people, to get off campus, to do new things. So Siftr is more focused on what's happening here at the university and how they can become a part of it. The Twitter feed is really to help them with their personal growth and taking advantage of the campus. And I have that embedded on my D2L course, which I'll show you in a little bit. But they're both there, so we can look at them together. The Siftr challenge is I create a new map each week based on a theme. And this theme has to do with elements of campus, and I'll show you some examples in a little bit. And part of that is that, you know, if you write one paper, you think about it one time, you write the paper, you just whip it off at like maybe midnight, because that's when they're whipping it out, and then they're done thinking about it. The Siftr is asking them to pay attention as they're walking around campus, to looking at buildings, thinking about what's going on here, thinking about how they can become involved. So constantly that phone's in their back pocket, that assignment is on their phone, thinking about their phone, and they're thinking about, oh wait, Margene asked me to do that, I better do that right now, I'm thinking about it, I'm engaged with it. So then they posted the map, and I have the map embedded in my D2L front page as well, so they all can see and learn from each other. That's the piece that they weren't getting from the papers. So I think you saw the learning goals in the beginning, to extend themselves and to challenge themselves to get outside their well, just to take advantage of the place that they're at here. So they are, the learning goals I think are met, plus they're present and thinking about the themes and actively paying attention, at least I hope they are, even when they're not in class. And I just did a mid-semester check-in yesterday, and I've got a number of students that said, I really like these assignments. They're easy, but I'm also learning a lot from them, and I'm thinking about it. It's less work for the students, And it's less work for me. I just zip through them, and it's so much fun. And the piece that's fun for me isn't just looking at it and seeing what they're coming up from. It's what they decide to post. I get to know them a little bit better. I get to see what they're trying to tell me through these pictures and the decisions that they're making. And it's not encumbered by worrying about their writing and their grammar and all that other stuff. I mean, I can do that in a different paper. And most important to me, they're all sharing this knowledge with each other, and they can see it and access it and learn from each other and grow from each other. So this is a little bit small, but I wanted to tell you the themes that we've had each week, because it kind of just gives you a sense of how simple and easy these little assignments are, but how impactful. So small, simple, easy, but impactful. The first one was, as you're walking around, look at the plaques and landmarks. They're all over. Take a picture of one that spoke to you. And you'd be amazed at these plaques. Somebody was walking by the physics building, and I didn't think freshmen would take that shortcut, and saw the plaque where honoring the postdoc that was killed with the bomb back in the 70s or 60s, 70s. And then tweet just the groupie from the org fair, because they all were assigned to go to the org fair. This one I liked a lot, and it forced me to go and open some buildings and doors that I had never gone into. As they're walking around campus, just go into a building and see what's going on in there. And I work next to Taylor Hall. I work in the Middleton building, and I had never been there. I'd never gone into that building, and it's the history of science, and it's so cool in there. So I challenged myself to go in there, as well as soil science, because I think that's a really cool building. And then tweeting, just find something cool to do on campus. Quiet places to study, really neat. I'm surprised some of the freshmen already are studying in the memorial cages, which I always found creepy and still do, but okay, if that works for them. And then just a simple tweet, some food you might want to try off campus, and I encourage them at that time to go to the farmer's market and go up on Saturday and see what they're selling at the farmer's market and get some fresh food. And they did. Week 4, they're freshmen. It's time to start thinking not only about expanding yourself, but how you get yourself on the right path for what you want to do. So week 4, that's advisable. Go find your advisor's office and take a picture of it. That's all it was, but now they know where it is. And then tweet, introduce yourself to a professor. Coming up, their next response paper is they have to interview a professor. So this was just a simple, like, my teacher wants me to introduce myself, so they could kind of off-put it and it wouldn't be so awkward. So that was their in. Week 5, we were starting to think about our library research project, and they had to go find a library. One of the 43 that is not, well, one of the 40 that's not Memorial College or Steenbach. And it's fun. They really went out there and looked for different libraries. And then week 6, which they're on right now, we don't do them every single week because sometimes stuff gets in the way, but they have to go visit a museum or cultural experience on or off campus. So that's what they're working on right now. And we are now in our theme in class working on identity, what it means to be who we are, and we will be starting to talk about microaggressions, some of those big, heavier topics. So I just wanted them to tweet one aspect, a symbol, a picture, something that spoke to them, that they wanted to show people that was part of what they identified as, one piece of their identity. So that's kind of what those passports are. And I know the point of this class, it's a lightweight class, and it's supposed to be lightweight. I think those themes are impactful, and I think they're getting a lot out of it, but it's not high academic stuff. It's more self-growth. But I was listening to NPR, like a lot of us do in the morning, and heard on the news about the coyote attacks on Madison's east side. Anybody live on the east side? Okay, yeah? Anybody have little dogs like mine? I have a little pom-pom. So this spoke to me a little bit. And here's what was from the Wisconsin State Journal. A string of coyote attacks on small dogs in Madison has left the east side neighbors wary and la la la. And then that struck me. Officials haven't been tracking the attacks closely. Now we have, I don't know if anybody works with wildlife or urban wildlife ecology here on campus, but we do have that department. Wouldn't it be a cool and fun and easy community building thing to have it to be an open community Siftr or an undergraduate project, research project? This is not hard research, but something that they could coordinate to ask the community members that if you see a coyote take a picture of where you saw it. And all of a sudden we have group data gathering and visualization of where these coyotes are attacking. And maybe it's just one separate neighborhood, but since officials haven't felt the need to do that, there's a space and an opportunity where community members and students might find that to be really important, but officials don't have the bandwidth. This is where we can do and use Siftr as a powerful tool for community research and community development. So although I'm using it in a lightweight, it's an easy, lightweight tool that could be done to do some powerful data gathering. All right, so let me just show you what this looks like on Desire to Learn. Oh, here you are. Sorry, I have to log in again. I got kicked out. I did not click this yet. So one of the things that I want to point out with Siftr is if you're putting it in Desire to Learn is that it doesn't have a security certificate, which means nothing unless you're into the tech world, except that always look up here for that little shield, and then you click it, and then you load an unsafe script so you can see it.
Didn't go to what?
So what was that?
Say that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't facing the audience. So your browser will often block Siftr, and if it does, look for the little shield up in the URL and just tell it to load the unsafe script. It's not unsafe, it just doesn't carry a security certificate, which is not anything to worry about when it comes to Siftr. It's a vetted tool. All right, come on. There we go. So you can see my students are doing their tweets and all that cool stuff, and that's on that side. I have freshmen, so just from course design, I just have them do and think about one thing at 1 week at a time. So that's what that's all about. And here's this week's Siftr. And it's painful. This week's, I try to be funny and it's not. It's so bad that it is funny. So this week is called Amusement, which is, a museum. And their mission is to go and find a location on or off campus, and let's see what people have been up to. This is at the Education Building, and usually there it is, Joelle, right in the Education Building. Joelle was smart enough after class yesterday to go right upstairs and take a picture of this. Good for her. It's a really cool exhibit. What else did they have? That's Joelle still. Right in this building, somebody stopped by and actually went in and checked out what's in the physics museum. It's something I never did as an undergraduate. I'm glad they did. They said it was kind of cool and fun.
If you double click on that map, I think you can click and drag to zoom in and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you're right. And this guy is at Chazen. I told them not to take pictures of the paintings. I'm like, don't let your flash go off. But sneaky. They snuck it in there anyway. But
do you ask them to make a comment or just?
They do, and let me see if I can catch a comment. So she didn't edit any comments yet, but other students will pop in there and add comments and say something, and sometimes it's just like cool picture, sometimes it's like, what is that? Where was that? How do you get there? So
is part of their assignment having to comment to others?
Yeah, they have to do 1 or 2 comments.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, I take this back to class and use this as an icebreaker every week, so that even if they think they're not going to comment, they all have to take the time to talk about what they took a picture of. And my class is not they're very chill and don't like to put themselves out there very much. So this is really easy for them, like to say, I just thought it was cool. I mean, there's something that dramatic about the way there were like bloody tears coming out of her eyes, and she'll say, something like that. And starts to have them be introspective. Yes, ma'am.
Does it have its own widget, or do you have to post the links?
Funny you should say. John and I made the widget for myself, but John and I were talking yesterday because we sit next to each other, and I said, you know what, it's kind of, HTML-y to make the widget. And he's like, well, why don't you make a widget? I'm like, well, don't you think they should learn how to make a widget? And he said, no. So I made you guys a widget.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
I will show you how to get to it and what it looks like. How many of you know how to mess with your home pages? Okay, if you know how to mess with your home pages and add widgets to your home page, then that's half the battle. If not, and this is something you want to add to your home page, when we're done talking together as a group, we can work you through that. Because there's a couple ticky-tacky steps. So, in widgets, there is a widget now called Siftr.
Now, as of yesterday, at about 3 o'clock.
Oh, I was trying to go home. And the way widgets work is that unless you have this little pencil, you can't edit it. Because if you edited my Siftr that I made for the whole university, then it would mess everything up. So what you have to do to have your own widget is make a copy. And now I can edit it. And I want to show you a couple things with this widget because it's straightforward, but there's a couple steps to it. So you already did that. If you're seeing that, making a copy. This was what I was referring to, is that if students aren't seeing it or you're not seeing it, don't freak out. Just look to see in the URL if there's the little shield. And here's the content. And I walk you through it. There's 5 directions. It looks more complicated than it is, and there's just one little piece of HTML that you have to do. And I'll show you what that looks like. Each Siftr on the actual Siftr app gets its own number. What you would have to do is, once you create your Siftr, is keep that number. And then you're going to come over to this app, and this is an example of what you're going to look for in the HTML, which isn't bad, I promise. It's not terrible. And you would replace this number with the number of your Siftr. So to do that, you go down to HTML view, right down here. Click on it. Okay, no, that's scary. It's scary. It's not bad. But way at the bottom, just scroll down to the bottom. You say, oh, there's that iframe. There's those words for Siftr. There's the number. I delete that. I put my own number in. I hit save. Save and close. And it's not going to change because I didn't change the number on mine. But then it will show up on your homepage. So you're just replacing your Siftr with the Siftr I have on there. And then you go back and delete those directions so that the students are like, what is that? Yeah. And add
On the
your own
activity
text.
sheet, we added this with much less detail. Added this as a medium task, and it's interesting.
I thought it was
because
boss level. You have to look at HTML.
Well, you said it was going to be boss level if they had to create their own widget. It was only a medium thing.
All right, all right.
The widget already created. But yes, the hardest part is actually not in Siftr, but in D12.
Yeah, and it's not terrible. It's 5 steps. They're just a little bit detailed. And if you're like me, you're like kind of more of a direction skimmer, and these are more of a step-by-step instructions that you actually have to
Yeah,
follow.
because you missed one on the way as you skimmed.
I'm sure I did.
That's pretty easy to do. You have to go back and go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Rather than 1, 2, 5.
Right, you're right. But we are all literate, so I think we can hopefully read those directions. Don't skim them. Just do what it says. All right, so I'm done talking. Let's experiment.